Hi everyone, David Aragona here, taking a look at one of the undercard stakes on Pennsylvania Derby Saturday at Parx. Race 7 is the Grade 3 Greenwood Cup, going a mile and a half on the main track for older horses. We'll throw up the field of 8 runners for this race, and this one does feature the star of this marathon division, the number 6 Next, who is coming off victories in the Brooklyn and the Birdstone, both going these marathon distances a mile and a half and a mile and 3/4 in his last couple of starts in New York. So this 12 furlong distance around 3 turns at Park should be no problem for Next. We know that he does this well, and he certainly has a speed figure advantage coming into this race over the rivals that he's going to line up against on Saturday. Also in this field is the number 3 Riding with Biden, who did win the Greenwood Cup last year, though there were no Next in the 2022 Greenwood Cup. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race to get a sense of how these runners might sort themselves out through the first half mile of this race. And you do see that winner of the race last year, the number 3, Riding with Biden, shown on the early lead, and that would not be a big surprise. The number 6 Next does like to be forwardly placed, but his rider, Luan Machado, is often content to let him sit outside of another horse or track a rival. So Riding with Biden has been successful using front-running tactics in the past. He did win this race in gate-to-wire fashion last year, so definitely feels like these two could be leading the field early, and I don't think they're going to be moving that quickly up front because there aren't too many others that look likely to be pressing the early pace. Let's go through this field in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Swigu Star. This is one of the long shots in the race, listed at 20-1 on the morning line, coming off a poor effort last time at Monmouth, but he did win his prior race at Parx, coming from far off the pace to be victorious, going a mile and 70 yards. He's never gone this far in the past, and furthermore, that victory that he earned 2 back, you see those red color-coded Timeform US pace figures in his past performances. He got the right kind of setup that day with a fast pace, probably not going to get that same setup in this Greenwood Cup. The number 2 is Fowler Blue. He won on the dirt 2 back, going the mile and 3/8 distance at Ellis Park. So at least we know he handles some longer distances, though he wasn't beating the toughest field that day. The runner-up from there, Oh Captain, did come back in an off-the-turf race at Saratoga and disappointed at a short price. Fowler Blue came back in his next start, raced in the Monmouth Cup against some better competition, wasn't really competitive at 24-1 that day. Just has that one dirt race 2 back that makes him a fringe player in here, but I think he'd have to do even better than that to be competitive against some of the top players in this Greenwood Cup, so he feels like another big price in this race. Let's take a look at the number 3, Riding with Biden, when he was winning an allowance race last time out at Parx, and he stalked the pace this day, made a breakaway move on the far turn, is just able to hold on through the stretch over another rival that he's meeting in this race, Calibrate, who does try to make it close at the end, but Riding with Biden always had a little more in the tank to hold that rival off. This was going the mile and a quarter distance, but like I said, he's handled the mile and a half before at Parx in the Greenwood Cup last year when he won this race in gate-to-wire fashion. He's a hard-knocking horse. He's won 9 of 24 career starts, usually shows up with top efforts when he's competing at Parx, but just feels like he might be running into at least one rival that's tougher than he's faced in his prior starts going these longer distances. So likely to be involved in the finish, but we'll see if he can make it 2 in a row. The number 4 is Calibrate, and he's the one that was chasing home Riding with Biden in that replay that we just watched. He did win a stakes race going a mile and a half at Oaklawn, going all the way back to the Temperance Hill in early April, so seemed like he had taken a big step forward going a marathon distance that day, and he arguably ran back to that race and then some when he was second to Next in the Brooklyn Stakes back in June. Since then, his performances have been okay. He picked up some pieces in the Monmouth Cup going shorter 2 back, and then obviously finished behind Riding with Biden last time. It feels like he's gained some consistency since moving into the barn of Jamie Ness, but I think he'd have to improve a little bit to turn the tables, not just on Riding with Biden, but also on Next, who soundly defeated him in that Brooklyn Stakes that I just mentioned. The number 5 is My Imagination, and this horse is going to be another big price in this race, another that has never tried a marathon distance before. He'll be trying to stretch out from the mile and 70 yards. Made his first start for a new barn off a trainer switch last time, going into the Alan Bedard stable, and finished 3rd against Allowance Company at Delaware, just making a late move at the end to get up for 3rd. This is a big step up in class, though, and he'd have to run a lot faster than he ever has before to even hit the board in this race. The number 6 is that favorite Next, and let's take a look at his most recent start in the Birdstone at Saratoga, going the 1.75 mile distance. So he'll actually be turning back from 14 furlongs to 12 furlongs in this Greenwood Cup. And what can you say about this horse? He has just turned into a different animal since they stretched him out to these marathon trips on the dirt, put forth that breakout performance in the Cape Henlopen when it was rained off the turf last year. And since then, he's won 4 of 5 starts. His only loss during that time was when he was trying a 1.5 miles off a significant layoff in his first start of the season in the Isaac Murphy. But since then, he's been perfect in 2 starts, decisive winner of the Brooklyn, then last time just easily winning that Birdstone by over 11 lengths and earning a 121 time formula speed figure. Nobody else in this field has approached a number like that. So Next, very much the horse to beat at likely a short price in this Greenwood Cup. The number 7 is Forewarned, and this is a hard-knocking veteran, a likable horse. Doesn't visit the winner's circle that often these days. He's just achieved 1 victory in each of the last couple of seasons. He also is a horse that might be better going a little bit shorter than this 1.5 mile distance. He did try the Greenwood Cup last year and finished a distant 5th, beaten nearly 20 lengths behind Riding with Biden. He has popped some big speed figures on occasion. He's a horse that can be a little unpredictable at times. He runs pretty often and doesn't always have the most consistent form, but he's capable of picking up a piece of this on his best day. Just feels like a win might be slightly out of reach, especially going this distance for Forewarned. The number 8 is Bear Oak, and let's take a look at his most recent dirt race when he was a winner of a starter allowance event going 1.25 miles at Saratoga 2-back. This was first off the claim for Norm Cassie, and it feels like this horse has really improved since getting into the Norm Cassie stable. This was a game victory this day as the gray runner to the outside Portos is going to take a good run at him in the late stages, and you can see Bear Oak really digs in to hold off that rival. They switched him to turf last time when he tried 1 mile and 3/16 against the tougher allowance optional claiming field at Saratoga, and he won again at 17-1 that day, upsetting a field that looked like it was a little tougher with better turf form on paper, but he was able to step up. I think just indicative of how well he's doing in the Norm Cassie stable. He's never gone this far before, but he's run 2 of his best races going 1.25 miles, and he runs like a horse that might be suited to these marathon distances. He would just have to take another big step forward if he were to upset Next in this race. So let's throw out my picks for the Greenwood Cup, and I'm not trying to beat Next. I'm a big fan of this horse. He's just a really likable, consistent performer over these marathon distances and feels like he's got more talent than we usually see from the leader of this division. So as long as he handles Parx on Saturday, he's going to be pretty tough to beat in this Greenwood Cup. I did put that number 8, Bear Oak, second. He feels like one that could improve going this distance, and he's been in such great form for trainer Norm Cassie. But Next, the one to beat at likely a short price in the Greenwood Cup on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.